It's on the inside. On the inside. Oh, and look, she snuck it in. She snuck it in.
Bart's not acting surprised, but you're looking good. Hey, everybody. My gosh, it's been days. How are you? I'm at Doc Foreman. You've wandered into hashtag SPSM, the Suicide Prevention Social Media Chat, where we have a special Valentine to all of you. And I'm so thrilled that this has worked out. And we're going to talk a little bit about how social media networks work and how SPSM as a community and as a network and as a group of people with skilled content production really have impacted suicide prevention and impacted the lives of the many of people who've been a part of our community. And we're going to talk about this through the lens of one of our favorite award-winning documentarians, Lisa Klein, who's going to sort of update us a little bit on the S word. And we're going to sort of talk about, you know, this interesting sort of situation where we've made this incredible friend, and she's also sort of wrapping up projects and transitioning out. And so we're going to talk about what we've learned and where we're going with things. I hope that you are one of the people who has viewed Lisa's video, the AAS Word, which, by the way, how clever was that, Lisa? Like 800 times since we posted it yesterday. It's astonishing. And I can't wait for us to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's introduce everybody. Tony Wood, say hi to the people.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Wood. I'm the chair of the board of the American Association of Suicidology, suicidology.org. I'm also the COO of Quantify, a little software company dedicated to mental health. OurDataHelps.org. Donate your data today. And the next AAS conference is coming up in 360 some days. You've heard this plug from me for about 6 months, so I'm going to put it off for 3 months or so. So you've heard it for the last time for a little bit.
And we lost Lisa.
Yes.
We've lost the guest. The guest has run away.
That happens a lot.
Didn't we agree to put monitoring bracelets on the guests in the past because of this sort of thing?
Cover.
Sending hounds.
Who are you, Birdie?
What is she doing?
Hey,
everybody.
I had to answer the door.
Yeah.
You had to answer the door.
My daughter's going in and out. Like, I unlocked it. We're good now.
No, we're just trying to do a show here, Lisa. I wouldn't worry about it. If there's any phone calls, if there's a TV show that you need to watch, we just say be yourself, do what you got to do.
Yeah, I'm a professional. So
we don't want to intrude.
Yeah.
We don't want to intrude.
I
think that's our motto. Don't intrude.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to go take a nap. So I'll talk to you when I'm done.
We've had guests do that before, and that's not a bad thing.
On the show.
Anyway, Dr. Birdie Andrews, executive committee member of the amazing American Association of Suicidology, just got back from the conference, which was incredible. I am also the vice president of telehealth and home and community services at a groovy little crisis center in St. Louis, Missouri, behavioral health response. A big shout out to all my BHR peeps and my boss, Pat Coleman, and really excited. And this is a little side point. I believe the first live SPSM show, it may have been the very first one, it might have been the second, was Lisa Klein and Des and the S Word show that we did many years ago. And Lisa's intelligence, her knowledge, her just how amazing she is at filmmaking, just within minutes fell in love with her. And that show just really there was such incredible energy on that show. And so it's always a treat to have Lisa on the show, and getting to see her at AAS was just incredible as well.
Aw. Am I talking now?
No, you have to wait. He totally set us up for that.
Okay.
Chris Maxwell.
Hey, everybody. I will not ruin the setup. I'm Chris Maxwell. I'm the communications
Wait, how did I ruin the setup, Chris? Chris, can you explain to me?
I don't want to ruin your setup.
All right.
You just created.
All right.
But now, anyway, I'm communications coordinator for AAS. It feels weird not having to promote the conference. So
Amos,
just keep in mind that in 2019 we'll be in Denver.
360 days away.
We'll be joining the Mile High Club in the Mile High City. No.
Oh,
okay, all right. This was a great show, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. It was great.
Everything turns to smut.
All right.
We're so smutty. We're so smutty. Lisa Klein, say hello to the people.
Hi. I'm excited to be here. This is cool. Thank you so much.
You asked for 3 minutes.
What?
You asked for 3 minutes and 44 seconds.
Oh, 3 minutes and 44 seconds because of the film. The thing that I sent you is 3 minutes and 44 seconds. That's why. Yeah, so I didn't know if you were showing it on this. That's what that was all about.
Yeah, and Lisa, so let's have a little conversation, Pooh, about, like, we're going to remind everybody sort of what the backstory is. So so first of all, actually, let me back up a little bit. Wanted to do a shout out to Josue from Geek Therapy, who's going to be helping us take all of these wonderful SPSM videos and turning them into podcasts so that we can figure out how to tag things. We're going to have hundreds of podcast episodes so people can re-listen to some of their favorite content and guests. We know that people go back and review SPSM episodes. We know they come up in searches, and we're going to be making a more searchable, portable, enduring version of the content that you've been getting here the last several years. And we're working on, really sort of a change in an era. So we're winding down traditional SPSM. We're going to be doing that in the next upcoming weeks. And we're going to be transitioning the content to new platforms. Big shout out to Stephanie, Elvis, everyone at stackup.org. I want to talk a little bit about something that happened this year that reminded me of several years ago. So you were referred to me, and I can't even remember how, because you wanted to meet suicidologists who were sort of media savvy. And back when we met, that just wasn't that many people. It's really different now. But back when we met, Lisa, there wasn't that many people. SPSM had just gotten started, and you were interested in doing a documentary project. And we had you on the show to talk about that, because this was a sort of speculative deal. And then we all went to this conference in LA. So I was coming to your home city. And so tell a little bit of the story about how we got started.
So, yeah, I remember talking to you, and then Bill Schmidt and Tony were on the line as well, right? Do you remember this, Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a thing. And then I'm like, I'm going to go to this conference, and how do I do this? I mean, because I know filmmaking. I really didn't know anything about conferences or suicide prevention, or, I mean, I have my own suicide story, but not about like the bigger picture of all of this stuff. And so you, April, were, as I said, you were sort of my golden ticket. You were my Willy Wonka to this whole thing. You were my entree.
Wait. Gene Wilder or Johnny Depp Willy Wonka?
I definitely have to go with the Gene Wilder. Sorry.
I love you.
Yeah, we would agree with that. He's definitely on the Gene Wilder. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah. And so I get to this conference, and you're like, and there were people who, like I had when you're going to a conference, you have to kind of get stuff, like you have to be, get a tag and get a thing. You're like, yeah, don't worry. We'll get you press. We'll do this. We'll do this. I'm going to introduce you to this. I get Thomas Joyner. I get Bill Schmitz. I get back. Like suddenly it's like, whoa. And it was awesome. It was incredible. It was like, we had our camera, we had our crew, we had our thing. Didn't 100% know what we were doing at that point. Just meeting people, and then meeting people with a camera and thing. And it just kind of all snowballed from there. So I met some people there, and they were like, well, you've got to meet such and such. And it just all kind of started coming together. But AAS was definitely a nexus, if you will. I mean, it was definitely a point of entry for me, for us.
And this was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, 14.
So
it was 2014.
15, 16, 17, 18. So 4 years ago and some change. Right. And you had already been working on the film. And at this point, but then what happened was that the filming really took off. And you were telling us how much film footage you did for the S Word.
About 250 hours. I thought it was 150, but Doug corrected me in front of a huge audience. He's like, no, it was more like 250. I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, there was a lot of footage that a lot of footage, a lot of edits, and somehow you joined the suicide prevention community. You were like Jane Goodall, and then suddenly you're a gorilla.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Okay.
Ooh.
Thank you for that. I think Jane Goodall would certainly be flattered to be part of the. No, I appreciate being.
Make us all monkeys.
I guess we're all gorillas in a way.
Right.
Gorillas?
I was a pit steak gorilla, but keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's point out that Doug's comment, men often claim that things are a lot longer than they really are. So I think it's maybe it's 150 to whatever it is, but I think I trust your judgment on this better.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But yeah, so here's the thing. You make a film about pens, let's say. So you finish the film and you walk away. It's like maybe you'll never look at a pen the same way, but it's different. It's just different. You make a film about suicide and suicide prevention. There are people who've been through a lot of shit, and they become friends, and it just becomes a really tight thing. And I want to be part of it. So it isn't like I'm walking away. It isn't like, okay, I'll go do the next film. And, we have our website that I want to go on until it doesn't need to anymore, which would be great if it didn't need to. But yeah, so I'm involved, and I will stay involved in it just because it is this incredible community. And showing up with a camera this year, as I told Tony, I mean, yeah, it does make me feel better to have a camera than to not have a camera, because that's what I'm, but maybe I'll show up next year without one. What's that?
I thought that was just a gag, but I love it.
But yeah, I mean, maybe I'll show up next year without one, but I don't know.
No, don't.
Again. Yeah.
No. Bring the camera.
It's coming back. The camera's going to Denver. Yeah, so that's kind of how it all. Is that a long, rambly answer to the question?
No.
Okay.
I'm like trying to stifle sneeze. I'm not being positive. Something brutal just about happened, and I just had to get it under control. So you're wrapping up after 4 years, really 5 years, because you were working on this. I mean, you're wrapping up, and the thing is, this year, and I'd like for Chris to talk a little bit about it. This year, and we've had the Mighty come, and we've been inviting people who are not suicidologists, but who are professional, storytellers, professional journalists, professional writers, who are now coming to the conference because the topic is really a powerful topic, and this is the place where you meet everybody. And so I'd like for Chris Maxwell to talk a little bit more about Rafi before we talk about the end of your story, or the end of, I don't know, the stopping place of the story. Lisa will tell us the right word, but tell us about Rafi, Chris.
So yeah, no, I don't know how much I can say specifically about the project that he's working on, but we've had a couple of people kind of reach out to look at the field in general, and to kind of explore what suicide prevention, what suicidology is and looks like. And so these are, like you said, these are journalists who come from outside of mental health, who come outside of our sphere, who are blank canvases. And so I think our goal, and immediately having them hooked up with us and with the SPSM group is really key, because we know this just because we live it every day, but we are so focused on pushing the innovative, the technology, the forward-thinking kind of concepts that is the future of suicide prevention and suicidology. And so getting these people from outside of the field hooked up with these groups of people, rather than saying, here's what we've been doing the last 50 years and not explaining why it hasn't been working. So that's kind of what I think we're trying to do. And we're doing a really good job. We're doing it with Rafi Cohen, who's an author. He wrote a book called The Arena a couple of years ago, and it's a really, really awesome, not expose, it's just kind of an overview of a bunch of different things in sports culture, looking at arenas in general. So not looking at a specific sport or a specific team, but how the culture of the arena exists. So he was thinking of creating something like that for suicide prevention, whether it ends up being a book or a project or what that might look like. So finding these people who have really good vision and making sure that they get connected with the people within both SPSM and AAS is really key.
Because I would hate for any of us to have to develop Lisa's documentarian skills. Like, the truth is that we know a lot about suicide. Lisa knows a lot about communicating in a really specific medium. So does Rafi. Knows a lot about writing. And he talked, I mean, the word he used was about synthesizing a subject. And so I want to talk a little bit about what you've just got coming out, Lisa. And then I want us to talk about the AAS Word and about your synthesis of this experience for the last 4 years, because you really are going to move on and do other projects. Look, we're going to stay tight. We were just talking about that before we went live. Like, we're your friends and we're going to just be supporting you throughout your career. But the truth is you're going to do other projects. So I kind of want to hear your synthesis of this experience. But show us, you have a neat little thing.
Oh yeah, so we have an educational distributor, so this is happening right now. How's the light? Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, we have an hour-long version for high school. What's funny about that? So the hour-long version. So we talk to like educators and we talk to some suicide people. You know, we're trying to create this hour-long thing, and we're like, and trying to figure out what we can lose. And every educator to the person, we're talking about high school, said, got to get rid of the curse words. And I'm thinking, I have a 16-year-old daughter myself. It's like, oh yeah, I would not want a high school kid to hear the word fuck for the first time on our thing. So yeah, we got rid of all those. So that took 20 minutes away right there.
That's like really good feedback.
Yeah, that was really good feedback. So yeah, so we have that, and then we did like Spanish and closed caption and stuff. So that's happening. And I feel like there's a much longer trail on this, and I don't know what I expected when I did this, but I knew that I had to do this film and that we had to do this. And showing it at AAS last year was incredible because we did almost no outreach. But we just got calls and we got calls and we got calls, and that has lasted a year so far. And then we're good. We've got stuff booked through, like October, where we're going and showing and doing the thing. And it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. But, again, coming to an environment like AAS is, it's a lifelong experience. It's not like making a movie and walking away. So yeah, that's did that answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when I want to talk about the AAS Word that you did, because I am so pushy. Bart would agree.
Oh yeah. So would I now.
Yeah. She's, I think that we all would agree.
But in a good way, right?
Sure, we've been trained to say that. You are correct. That's all I have.
Okay.
That's because I was pushing the little button on his shock collar. Just
right, exactly. Yeah, well, we had a conversation because I said, look, if you need help, because April, again, you've done so much for us, and it was, one of those things like, you need help on social media. I'm sort of suck at it, but I can do it.
I was like, no, we don't need help on social media. I'll tell you what we want.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, yeah, no, but come and shoot and do a thing and blah, blah, blah. So I figured, yeah, that's going to be loose. I'll come and I'll share whatever. And then we had that conversation about, I want it tomorrow. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you ask a documentarian to do a news journalist job, right?
Yeah.
Well, I ran into a news photojournalist who's now becoming a suicidologist, like having a second career in her like later portion of her professional development. And she was like, I'm not here to do photojournalism. I'm not going to take any pictures. And I was like, traitor.
What?
Oh my God. You have the skill. No, so you did the AAS Word, and you were only there for a day. You shot a few hours of film. And then you made a bunch of editorial choices and this was your choice. This is what you said to me. You say, I've shot the S Word. I've shot all this great content of what people are speaking. I want to show about these people behind the scenes, and tell me why you said that, and tell me how that informed what you did.
So I do have a lot of, I have some interviews and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But then, I'm like, I want to show, again, it is about the humanity. And what I was struck by like, you know, when I tell people, well, I'm going to DC for a couple of days to go to a suicide conference, it's not like people are like, oh, wow, like a Springsteen concert, you know, it's not like people are like, wow, that sounds awesome. But I know that it's awesome. And I get there and, oh my God, I mean, literally when I walked in, you know, I walk into the hotel, it took me probably an hour to get to my room, just because it's like, you know, here's this person and this person and this person. And it's like this homecoming, this warmth, this thing. And I don't know that all, you know, again, I'm not a corporate person. I never have been. I kind of went from school to filmmaking, skipped the, you know, wearing the pantsuits or whatever people do to go to work. But showing up at this thing, I can't imagine that conferences are like this. Maybe they are, where everybody is so excited to see each other. And, you know, it's a thing. Yes, it's suicide, and everybody's happy that people are there the next year, you know, or that are there, period. You know, I mean, that's a huge thing. These people are so heroic, and they've been through so much shit, and here they are, and they're telling their stories, and they're helping other people. Oh my God. So it was just amazing. And so when I was going through the footage and I was looking at it, I'm like, wow. I mean, we're at a party for part of it, Suicide Spring Break. And so,
because there's a party every year.
Because there's a party every year. And the fact that, I mean, even that title, Suicide Spring Break, it's like, come on, you know, you're taking something. First of all, I love when you take something that serious and you have to find humor in it. I mean, you just do, because otherwise you're going to go out of your mind, and that's where the humanity comes from. So when I was looking at this footage, I'm like, I love this song, this Johnny Cash song, and I'm going to do something with that. And it just sort of evolved from there. It's like we laid down the track of the song, and I just started putting stuff in, just indiscriminately, for sure. And there's a lot of Tony Wood, but I think
we always have a lot of wood in our suicide conference. Anyway, keep going.
I knew that was coming, and as I was saying it, I was hoping, but I thought it would come from Bart, but whatever. But he's into length. He's more about length than he is about the actual wood. So, but anyway, we're
Bart's got to go. They'll be back maybe.
Yeah. Oh, we have
shout out to his boss earlier, so hopefully she's watching tonight.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So that's how it all kind of came together. It was just, you know, I got to do this. April's got to love it, because I'm doing this for, you know, it just all kind of like, this is what I want to do with this. Yeah, it's great to have the interviews, and I'll be happy to send them to you. I'll just send them to you raw, and you can look at them and do what you want with them. But this is what felt like what I saw and what I've seen over the past 4 years or so. This is what that was.
So, you know, we've spent a lot of time capturing the issue and trying to communicate about this issue, this topic. And you told a story in just 3 minutes with the AAS Word that really communicated about us. And I want to talk a little bit. So the video, we just posted it yesterday, like just in our little Facebook networks and on the SPSM chat. Like, we didn't do anything big. I'm sorry. And, you know, we're at 800 views or something like that. And people kept sharing. So people were sharing it externally, and they were doing just what you talked about, which was they were saying, these are the people I've been talking about. This is my AAS family. And even so, even when I was sitting down with my husband and children, I was like, I'm hitting play, and I'm like, this is that person that you've heard me talk to on the phone, because these are very important people to me. So SPSM, for me, has been this amazing option, or this amazing path for meeting people and having long-term relationships. So Travis, how are you doing? Noreen, Carl, Marshman, Anne Marie, who else is out there? Who else is watching? And we have 12 viewers here, and we have people on the Twitterverse. There are all these people, and there are all these people in the video. So there was Sam Nads and Dez, and there was Jess Dolman Rainey and Jem James and Stan Collins, and who else was in the video? Bart Andrews Briefly and Jonathan Singer. All these people who've been on the show, who are regular members of the community, these people that feel like my friends that I visit each week. And the video, and the many times, people I've had relationships with for years, and I haven't ever been able to explain it to anyone else. And everyone was, when they were sharing the video, they were saying the exact same thing. Like, everyone, you should meet these people. And you did an amazing job with that.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, when I do these screenings and I'm out there and we're talking and people ask me like questions that I can't answer that you guys, you know, it's like, well, how are we going to prevent suicide? What's going to, you know, like the really, really tough questions. And what comes up every single time is community. It just is. And when I see these people, or when I'm with these people, it isn't like, oh my God, you know, the suicide and scars and all, I mean, emotional scars and all of the stuff that goes, no, it's just people having fun with each other. And, but there is an element of family, community, all of that stuff where they're just loving each other up, you know? That's what that is. And that's what I was feeling when I was cutting this, when I was, you know, cutting it together.
And you just did an amazing job. I want to give everyone else a chance to sort of comment on the video. Big shout out also to Stephanie and Elvis, because I owe you guys an apology because I thought everyone had the address to the party and then didn't see my phone messages. So I've got pictures of you guys in the bar. And that are awesome. I wish that we had you at the party so we could have had you wrapped in that. We had people like Travis and Stephanie and Elvis who were new members of our community there, plus people like you and Bart and Amelia who just made everything happen. Like, this video really captured this sort of evolution of this cohesive group. Bart Andrews, what did you think about this video when you saw it?
There were several things. I think the first thing that came to mind was that Jonathan Singer was blocking my best shot. Like, there was this point where
I felt the same way,
where I had a chance to shine, and Zing just was right at, what do they call that, Lisa, when somebody's blocking your shot?
Viewing in front of you.
Oh, no.
I can say that.
Can we edit that out?
I can say that.
Okay. That's
We'll fix it in post. It's fine.
Thank you. We'll fix that in post. What was most incredible to me?
He was cock-blocking you.
There was.
Sometimes they call it upstaging. Other times they don't.
Here's a good tip to you kids at home, and good attorneys will tell you this: don't ask a question if you don't already know the answer to the question. Just for you kids at home, keep that little bit of advice from your Uncle Bart in mind. The thing that amazes me is that what it captured so well is how much networking, connecting, and friendships, and just what it's like being at the conference, because it really is, you can't go anywhere without running into people. There were so many people I met that I had never met in real life before, which was absolutely incredible. You can't go anywhere without running into people and talking, and there's just an energy and a buzz and a level of togetherness at this conference that's incredible. And I think that the video just really captured that so well, Lisa.
Thank you, sir.
Chris Maxwell.
I just love you so much, Lisa. The video was amazing. I definitely broke down both times I've watched it so far. Like, I want to watch it again, but I have to be in a particular mindset because I know what's coming. It felt like I'm like the intro to Cheers, like the fact that the intro to Cheers, and then like that first couple of scenes at the beginning of every episode where people start kind of filtering in, and you get that sense of like, you know, everybody's backstory, you know, everybody where they're coming from, you know that they're all basically coming home, and that they're all going to maybe there's a new character who's being introduced. It felt so like perfect and right. To see everybody kind of in this one shot, and in this one shot, and then this one shot. It was just, I don't know. I don't have anything like technical. It was just more emotional, I think, and reactionary, in all the best ways. So it was beautiful. It was awesome.
Thank you.
Tony Wood.
I saw the opener. The opener was really good. I haven't watched the rest of it yet. I'm going to, but the first part was really good. And everybody should see the first part.
It's 3 minutes. Is that with you? The 3 minutes with you?
No, he's in the open. He's in the open.
Beginning of it.
You did look very handsome.
Did I?
There was a lot of wood.
Think up and over.
Ooh.
Well, and Rafi was in. So
He's in it for a second too.
Yeah,
so Rafi. So we have like I felt like there was some
Rafi sells this book because otherwise we're in deep. But he's trying. He's trying. If you're a publisher, Rafi's shopping it around.
But there was this sort of with Lisa filming Tony and Rafi talking. It felt a little bit like a torch passing moment.
It was a little meta, probably, but I didn't know who he was then. I knew who he was by the time I did it because he had talked to me. And, you know, talking to him was really interesting because you talk about the synthesis. And when I first, there was definitely an evolution to the film, to the S Word, but of where I started to where I, you know, where what you saw. And so in talking to him, when he talked about the various topics, I had every single one on my list. Every single thing that he was talking about was like, oh yeah, I was interested in that. I went down that road. Oh, I went down that road. I went, you know, but at the end of the day, I mean, we had a kind of, you know, because if it were up to me, it would have been, you know, 90 hours maybe, or 250, but a little long for a movie, but he has the luxury of doing this as a book, and he can cover some stuff that I think would be fascinating. Some of the roads that he was pursuing, that he wanted to go down, I thought were really interesting.
Yeah, and can I just say, like, and so I have to tell you, he is definitely not taking a Jane Goodall approach to joining the Gorillas. And so I was so excited to see him. And of course, I've had this lovely relationship with you, Lisa, and I come up to Rafi, like, and I was like, so what do you think? Like, what's this been like for you? And he's like, I don't answer these questions at this stage. And I was like,
oh,
I know. I was like,
yeah, I blur lines. I try to stay professional, but I blur lines, particularly when.
Yeah.
But
I
I
had that
had
feeling like when you go try to talk to your therapist in public and you find out if they're going to be cool or not. Whoops. And then I was like, sorry, I was like, no, come on, tell me what you think. And he was like, no. And I was like, never mind.
Wow.
Won't ask again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rafi was totally fine. I'm just letting you know I wasn't trying to be weird. It's just Lisa and I had this thing.
We did have a thing. Well, plus I have an emotional investment in the topic.
We do. Amelia wants to know why there wasn't more cowbell in the video, and I think we did have a discussion about this earlier, and you probably had artistic reasons for that, but could you please explain the absence of cowbell?
Yeah, you know what? So we had it in the probably the first or second cut. There was a lot of cowbell, and I had to cut back the cowbell in order to get more Amelia, particularly Amelia with her phone. So then we got to a point where do we want the cowbell or do we want Amelia? And we finally, at the end of the day, decided on Amelia.
Yeah, artistic.
But it's a great question, Amelia. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Solid.
Yeah, it just makes me think that somebody's really invested in the project also.
So. Yeah, cowbell helps. Speaking of cowbell, I want to do a shout out to John Ackerman. I don't know why in my brain you've always had a beard, so I kept not recognizing you in public, John. And I kept like seeing you in the film or in the AAS Word, and I was like, I know who that is. And then like I have to look at your snapshot, your little avatar to remember that's John Ackerman, who I know by email. And I just want to let you know, if you could grow a beard, that would help me out.
I met him for the first time there.
John, you don't have to do that, John.
Don't do it, John.
No. And here's what's funny. Here's what she's going to do, John, because she did this to me. She's going to get you to grow a beard. Then she's going to say the beard makes you look old, and then tell you need to shave the beard, and then repeat the process repeatedly until you just don't know who you are anymore.
You
just prepare yourself for that.
Your fans that I complimented you. Never again, Mark.
Wow.
Jokey psychological torture. That's all.
Thank you, Tony.
The beginnings of Stockholm Syndrome. Hey, did you guys see Travis Atkinson's tweet?
Which one?
He was accurately synthesizing what we were trying to describe for the last 34 minutes.
Oh, shit. You better read this.
I think one thing y'all are trying to capture in this conversation is that this is a profound, significant group of suicide warriors. And while we are simple alone, we have great potential together to influence our communities. This group is really profound. Pretty much.
I agree.
That's pretty sweet.
What an eloquent person.
I'd be hanging out with
that.
Yeah.
And he's a musician, and he dances, and he's like...
I think he sings well, but he doesn't have a beard. And I think that the one thing we can all agree that John doesn't have a beard, Travis doesn't have a beard.
What part of the party did I miss? When did he sing?
Is Travis a triple threat?
Yeah, he is.
Sounds like it. Wow.
He is.
Sounds like it.
I can't stand up to that.
So Lisa, you've made us this Valentine, and of course we're gonna ask permission for AAS and for SPSM to hang on to this video and use it if that's okay with you.
Cheers.
We're
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, sure.
Because we are really trying to explain this. We've done a lot to build community. I would love it if it would be okay with the group. I would like to talk about something I wasn't anticipating when I queued questions up last night. I want to talk about, you said that there were, because I have some really interesting thoughts. You said there were a couple of interviews where people had some more critical feedback of their AAS experience and had some sort of food for thought. And I actually would love to talk about that because I think I have some thoughts on how the SPSM experience really does inform that critical feedback. What do you think, Lisa?
Yeah, I as I said, I mean, and we talked about this before, there might be, okay, let me just put this in context. When people like to talk a lot about Hillary's emails, and they would say emails, remember Syria, remember the Benghazi, blah, blah, blah. So there are buzzwords that people can say because they're disgruntled. They're not 100% sure why they're disgruntled, but they're disgruntled. So they have buzzwords. So if you put their feet to the fire and said, okay, tell me about those emails, what were in them, what exactly are you talking about with the emails? What are you talking about with Benghazi? What are you talking? So there were these big picture things. So basically what came out of that, when I asked, there were a couple people who were like totally positive. Oh my God, it's a love fest here. I've learned so much, but those were the main things. There were two that were more, I guess, critical, where it was like, we have to get, I'm trying to think of the wording. I want to go back and watch it, but it wasn't, we have to get ahead of this or push. I know I said like, push it forward. It's like, what are we going to do? We're all talking, and are we talking into the void? Are we listening to each other? What are we going to do to get this? What are we going to do to stop suicide? How are we not, what are we not doing? Are we stuck? And they were both sort of the same. They were talking about being stuck and being the old ways, and are there new ways to approach this and things like that. So that was kind of yeah.
And I want to talk about that because I think that is great. And I'm excited when people say that because, Stephanie and Elvis are on here and we talk with us way. We're looking at like, we're gonna as we're wrapping up, we're gonna really talk about what SPSM started out to do several years ago and sort of where we are now. And this video really captures that. I wonder what the rest of the panel thinks about Lisa's comments.
I have to jump in really quick and then say that like I couldn't be more. I mean, I realized that whoever these people are, which I'm sure they're lovely people, meant this in the best way possible. But to me, it's precisely it's the culmination of my hope for the culture surrounding suicide and suicide research and advocacy. The version of suicide prevention and crisis prevention that I came into 8 years ago, that had no social media channel, and they had no intention of communicating with the public in this way. They were also terrified of it. The best people in suicide prevention were terrified of communicating online because they were afraid of the implications. And now we apparently have people that are at the conference that are impatient about how can we move forward faster, which is wonderful. It's a totally different. That's a cultural shift of astonishing proportions. And I hope that we do move faster. That's what SPSM is for. Bart Andrews.
So one of the most, there were so many amazing moments at the conference, but one of the things was when I was on the Twitter feed and live tweeting, Craig Bryan, the amazing Dr. Craig Bryan, jumps in and starts live tweeting a session, right? And he's just hammering out these amazing tweets. And I mean, I just stop and think about this. If you don't know who Dr. Craig Bryan is, he is really, in terms of influence and the type of research getting turned out and moving the ball forward in suicide prevention, he's at the top of the game. He is incredible. And he's live tweeting the conference. And that was absolutely incredible. That would not have happened a few years back, right? One of the things that you're seeing is that as people, this is the truth, it's a nudge. When people see people they like and respect doing something, they're much more likely to do it. And because we've embraced social media and they see that we use it for good, when you comb through the thread, even though there were some cranky tweets and there's some tweets about, well, we need more of this, or I don't like that, they were respectful. They were respectful. People engaged around that content, and people can see that this is actually a really way to communicate with each other. And so that's really key. But I do say this. I really do struggle with the we need to move forward, and we're doing the same old, and then there's no specific operationally defined action that goes along with it. And I do have I have a beef about that. If you are unhappy and you want to see something different, put it in terms that people can then operationalize and do something about. Vague comments about we need more of this or need more of that are not particularly helpful if you can't operationalize it in some way so people can. How do you measure it? How do you know that that's happening?
Show up at SPSM and chat more so you can become clearer about that if you have any difficulty. Come to AAS and we'll help you. I mean, if you have a vague sense, we'll help you dial it in, right?
Do a panel.
A real panel. Can we talk about panels for a minute?
We could go on an entire panel tangent.
We could do on a panel. We won't panel.
I'm going to go ahead and come out
Would it be
anti-panel. I am fully anti-panel. I've been sharing.
You moderated a great panel.
I know.
Wait a minute. I was on a
that
panel.
was a real panel. That was a real panel. What's a panel?
That was a wood panel. That was a
also-
wood panel.
It was all wood.
Wood paneling is the preferred panel.
Right. I would think.
Chris Maxwell. Reactions to people saying they want to move forward faster.
I tweeted this out earlier when, in response to the question about my backstory for SPSM. This is specifically the reason why I clicked with you all and why I haven't been able to leave you guys. Yeah, as Travis, I was trying not to quote Travis because he just tweeted, "Why can't I quit you?" So it's really just I'm by my nature very impatient, and so when I start seeing when I am involved in something that I'm really passionate about, and I start seeing where things have broken down or where things could be done better, I do very, very quickly start bitching constantly and trying to find the very specific things that I want to be able to change, and not just in the ways that people have done before, but finding things that have been used in other industries and other fields that have shown promise. And so that's what you guys were already doing. And so it just clicked. To see other people start picking up on that and start providing real-time feedback is just amazing to watch. And not even just people who are members or whatever, friends of SPSM are homies. Even people outside of if we're live streaming at the conference, I noticed so many people who were there that aren't typically SPSM people. They weren't people I recognized from last year's conference. So we had a whole bunch of new people jumping on and saying, well, this doesn't sound like it'll work, or this is what we could be doing differently. And so it was just really, really cool to see the people coming out of the woodwork. There's wood again. The woodwork to start making things happen. But no, yeah, what Bart was talking about in terms of showing people the right way to do it, giving people a good example is exactly what you guys have been doing for years. So it's really cool to see the adoption rate just kind of skyrocket.
And I'm going to read some of Marshman's tweets. First of all, it's been great to have him at the conferences. So there have been so many parts about what have been valuable about this experience is getting to meet people and realize that we've started these profound professional collegial relationships with online. And Marsh had a couple comments about about your videos or about your interview content, Lisa. He said, even the cranky tweets were done with compassion. You got to love it. And he talked about, I think that we're one of the few disciplines with the ability to have criticism that could actually save lives. SPSM and AAS are amazing groups of people that want to see their criticisms and take them and use them for good and change. And so, I can only imagine, and maybe Lisa, you can sort of comment as we're talking, but the intent of SPSM from the very beginning was to say, what's going on that is new, innovative, different? How can we get energy? How can we get drive? How can we accelerate the field? And I think we did. Like, you could really reasonably argue that. And so the question is, then how can we keep doing that? But like we haven't seen this footage, but given what you're hearing, what's your reaction to that?
I think every company, every organization needs an SPSM. I really do. I think Facebook needs an SPSM. Like, everybody needs that. And I'm not saying this to stroke you. I mean this. Like, when you started and what you're doing, Korean Beth, but when you started this, when you started doing this, it is, you talk about the openness. You're not just saying it. I mean, it truly is open. I mean, it's like, what's a new technology? What can we do? How can we get this point across? How can we do this? Because so many.
My Lord, it's Doug.
There's Doug. Do we need light?
Doug, we
might need light.
We don't really need Oscar winners here, Doug.
I don't know. Do you like looking at her all grainy and then the dark, or you want some
I know.
light?
Turn some light on, maybe.
Some light.
Yeah. I haven't been able to get. I haven't gotten up. Oh, Jesus
Christ! Look at that!
Oh, that's way too light. Now I'm really.
That's why you're
the third kind, right?
So, yeah. Wow. Yeah. But so, having said that, because I think so. Will you stop it? I think so many of these things, like I have a list right now for an article that I write for the Mighty, I think. And a big thing, whether it's in suicide prevention or whatever, ego. So you have egos, right? Oh my God. Seriously, go.
Everybody ask the winner, Doug Block!
That's right.
Oh my God. Stop it.
Documentarian, editor of the S Word.
I thought that everybody loved my comment. I thought people were excited about my list.
My son is from behind the camera. He heard me burst out, and my son walks in, and he's mouthing at me, what the fuck? Anyway, keep going.
Okay. So, yeah. So you're talking about ego. There's a lot of ego in suicide prevention and everything, right? So part of the thing is, if we do it this way, we're going to prevent suicides. If we do it this way, we're going to prevent suicides. If we do this, but what SPSM is trying to open up, and what the AAS is trying to open up, is, why don't we maybe collaborate? Why don't we maybe listen to what all these other people are saying? And that way we can form a collaboration. So once that works, once everybody, and it seems like every year is a little bit more, and people are actually listening to each other, and researchers are saying, yeah, maybe lived experience, whatever your lived experiencing is, but whatever. So lived experience being more and more involved, since they're a huge part of this, and just enveloping everybody into this. And I think that's a huge thing, to be able to get past the egos, or work with the egos, or whatever it is, to collaborate more. Oh my God, get out of here. Stop it. I'm trying to make a point.
It in.
I don't know if
She's phoning it in. It's a solid gag. Hi, Shu.
All right.
I hope your friend doesn't mind that we just live streamed their text.
What is the text?
It looks like Shu is sorry that she couldn't attend the screening.
Oh, okay.
Just let Doug know.
Tell her she just attended something even funner.
Yeah. What's this? She's totally phoning this in. That's funny. Okay, great. All right. Anyway,
because
I was trying to make a salient point, but
you're trying to say that we've been I will have to tell you, SPSM by its very nature has been fairly, democratic's not the right word, but fairly open-handed, very collaborative,
Yeah. I think democratic is the right word.
Yeah, very cross-disciplinarian, very like, what works over here? How does that apply over there? How does your skill set work with this person's skill set? And we've done a lot to what is a new idea or what are some creative solutions
Seriously.
to problems or challenges that we've had in suicide prevention. So if we have a bunch of people who are engaged with you and who are engaged in our Twitter feed saying, what do we do to move the needle on this? I think that's great. How can, and so many SPSMers since the chat started have moved into lots of different kinds of leadership positions. Right. How do we take that collaboration and that drive? I want, since SPSM started, a whole bunch of new things, like since the first conference that I went to, where people were talking about topics they'd talked about a really long time, to this one where they're talking about topics that we introduced on SPSM to our community maybe just a couple of years ago, and we're relatively new and not well known, are suddenly on the main stage. Like that's happened. Does anyone want to like start shooting out some topics that they noticed that were prominent in this conference that SPSM introduced?
Do you want to be on this podcast thing? Okay. My daughter's standing here now.
My son's standing behind the other one, and Lisa and I think you'd be a cute couple. We're just saying.
Oh, what? Okay. We're dinner soon. 10 minutes. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah.
So what topics, so things that started on SPSM that like made it to sort of mainstream suicidology in just a couple of years. Anyone want to shoot out some topics?
I do want to say one thing, and I'm not sure if it was on SPSM, and I don't want to talk anymore necessarily, but I do want to say this because it's written on my sheet that I thought you were excited about. But so we spend a lot of time in crisis, right? In crisis mode, you know, you have crisis text line, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, blah, blah, blah. Super necessary, right? Because people are on the edge and you've got to talk them off the ledge of the, So what I want to focus on, and what we did when we did our panel, we talked about it too, is the upstream approach. Is you know, like the teacher who does that thing where they take their kids, like 5 and 6 year olds, and talk about, okay, who are you going to have lunch with this week? Who are you thinking about having a play date with? And so you isolate or reverse isolate. You focus on Jamie, who nobody has picked for any of these things. And it's like, okay, maybe we need to include Jamie. You know, so all of this stuff that suicide prevention could certainly hop onto in an upstream approach, like getting them before they get to that edge. So those are things that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm not sure if SPSM is talking about, but I know you've done a lot of tech stuff and things like that. But anyway, other people who know more should speak now.
I'm just going to read a tweet from John Ackerman. He says, after AAS, what would have been 17 in Chicago, I developed an instantaneous network of suicide prevention and media mentors that have led to so many meaningful projects. Adding a social media presence to our Center for Suicide Prevention was critical. The generosity of the SPSM crew is off the charts. And John Ackerman did. He's jumped on and has done a gazillion collabs. Rin Lincecum, I half the time get her name right. Research in suicide prevention can be made in silos, but SPSM bridges all of the groups together in a meaningful way. It's made a huge difference for moving the fight against suicide forward and giving me a way more well-rounded education. And by the way, meeting her in person, life-changing. If you get a chance to like hang out with Ren, give it a shot. Other thoughts, other topics, things that happened on SPSM that translated into mainstream stuff.
Yeah,
Art?
I'll jump in on this. So one of the most amazing presentations was Dr. Joseph Franklin did a piece on dispelling the 4 myths that we keep perpetuating around suicide, and not the typical myths that you think of, but a lot of these myths about the fact that a suicide is linear, the assumptions we make about suicide, that suicide is linear, and that we can understand suicide via all these risk factors and warning signs, and that we're going to in some way develop some instrument with these very clear bomber underpinnings of suicide to actually predict suicide. And he just used evidence to completely trash that entire approach, right? right? That the only way we're going to, that suicide is indeterminate and complex. That in fact, when you look at all these, if you guys out in the world don't know about this, there's been a big buzz growing for years that warning signs are not particularly helpful at all in predicting suicide. That in fact, we use them because we don't have anything else to use, but they really do a really bad job of telling us who's at imminent risk of killing themselves. And he pointed out that we need to acknowledge that suicide is indeterminate. There are multiple pathways, possibly infinite pathways, and that the only way we're going to really get at predicting suicide is by using machine learning and using really complicated technology to look at thousands of factors. And that's something we've been talking about SPSM since I first joined on this show, that in fact, if we're going to really start predicting suicide ahead of time, that we're not going to do it via warning signs. We're going to have to use new techniques to do that. And I thought that was incredibly powerful.
Chris Maxwell, you're leaning in.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I've seen come out of really the last 2 years is this conversation that you have really pushed out over and over again. You guys have said interdisciplinary collaboration is necessary to make things happen. We have to be looking at similar problems either in public health or in other industries that have experienced growth and innovation, and take that and learn from it and figure out from the people who are really good at it, how to make it work for our problem. And so this year and last year, a lot of conversations have started cropping up on Twitter, on social media, and in person about making sure that we're including not just psychologists or psychiatrists, but that we're getting behavioralists and sociologists and people in economics and all these kinds of different video games. I mean, just straight video games. So these conversations are happening constantly now, whereas 2, 3, 4 years ago it was, well, what can we learn from therapy, from evaluations on therapy treatments. So it's grown, I think, outside of those kinds of little holes that we'd put ourselves in.
Tony Wood.
The width and the breadth of the messaging. Hardwood. I'll get back to it. The the girth. No. Okay. The width and the breadth of the width and the breadth of the messaging at SPSM. We've seen it transformed by this, by just a little nudging in the direction of openness, and luckily we've been in the position, those of us who participated in SPSM and who are also have leadership positions in the field in one way or another, have had the pleasure of taking these ideas into our regular work and hope and making projects happen and seeing projects happen on their own with no real assistance from us. Just the fact that people met each other through this channel, and they met people they would never meet before. They would have never met before. All sorts of different fields, computational linguists and data scientists and psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists and advocates and documentary filmmakers and it's
authors, journalists.
The numbers are on our side. There are so many people that have been personally affected by this issue that all we have to do is get out there and work on it. There's a lot of help out there for us.
Suicide Tinder.
Yeah.
To prevention. If we had just one little, and then I think we got to think.
Suicide prevention Tinder. Yes. Yeah. Good point. That's the next little point.
Reduce one. Save one life. I'll take it.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I think the other thing that
we're final thoughts, guys.
That was my final thought. What, Chris?
I'll take mine really quickly. My final thought is, and this is something that Jonathan Singer and Bart and Tony and a few of us in the SPSM chat a couple of years ago now came up with, and I think we still haven't figured out the answer. How do we make suicide prevention cool?
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
Who was that? I'm sorry to interrupt this late in the show, but whose was that? That was a good idea. That wasn't me, was it?
It was one of us.
Was it?
I think it was you, Tony. We actually did a bunch of memes about it. Remember Chris made a really cool meme? I think that came from you, Tony.
Oh, well, if
It was that
wasn't
hardwood.
I'm
You just
sorry.
put that hardwood in there, and we just rolled with it.
Girthy, solid.
Final thoughts, Bart Andrews.
Final thoughts, Lisa Klein, you are amazing. You bring so much fun and energy to everything that you do. Big shout out to everybody that I ran into at AAS and everybody that attended. The conference was amazing. I anticipate that next year will be even better. And I look forward to us kind of growing up together and doing good things.
Any final thoughts from Lisa Klein?
Yeah, I just think what you guys are doing, just stay open and jumping on what Chris said about, opening it up to other disciplines, other people, teachers, get a teacher on the show, like all of this stuff, anybody who is in touch with anybody, get them involved, get them wrapped up in this, man, because this is huge. This is such a big thing. And you guys, God, you're right there. You're right there. And your openness is it's going to change things. I really, really believe it.
So this is the hour. And so this is my final thought. I want to thank you, Lisa, that you reached out. I'm so glad that we were able to that we've been able. I see sort of this project as it's really coming to the conclusion and this beautiful Valentine that you've written us. I am so grateful to have known you and had you as a member of our community, and that we'll be supporting you as you do these other projects and move on to other topics. I cannot thank you enough for the talents and the skills that you brought to this topic and to these people and this issue that we all care so much about. We are so lucky. Tony is right. And you're right. We're almost there. The numbers are on our side. This is one of those sort of it's like stone soup. Like, you guys remember that childhood story where I think SPSM sat down with a big bowl of boiling water and we put in a rock, and then people have just been making something bigger out of it. And this is one of those things. Thank you for communicating what that is like and what this thing that's bigger. Social media has really impacted our in real life relationships, and it's impacted our ability to do this. And we're really grateful to the things that you did to help us along the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And good metaphor, stone soup, great metaphor. And this sounds like a bye, and I don't want a goodbye. So,
well, believe me, we'll make sure to have the conference
and
in
if
LA.
you all haven't seen the movie yet, the swordmovie.com. Head on over.
Head on over.
Head on over. We're going to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Shelby Roseland. Going to Oklahoma Wednesday and Thursday.
We're in Oklahoma.
First, we're going to be in Oklahoma City on Wednesday night, and then we'll be in McAllister on Thursday night.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. So that should be kind of cool. And then Wyoming, all kinds of cool stuff coming up.
Great.
So as we're moving through, we'll be having SPSM chat next week. Hashtag SPSM. We are still working on the switch to Twitch and how this is going to work. Had a wonderful call with Josue. We will be having 2 weeks from now discussing how you can get SPSM podcast, because we're going to have that for you. You guys have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you soon. Take care.
Bye, everybody.